Hi, I'm Marcy Brenner. I am the daughter of Max Brenner, who ran Brenner's Bakery in Alexandria, Virginia since 1953. When I moved away, I missed those treats, and I had always hoped that I could get those my recipes one day and make those treats in my very own kitchen. So I started working on them with my dad from ingredient cards from the bakery that were in pounds and ounces. And he helped me understand the math of the ratios. And we began to work it out. We began to bake, and I've baked for a couple of years and developed 50 recipes, the most favorite recipes from Brenner's Bakery in Alexandria. And then I started to write stories. And I started a Facebook group called Brenner's Bakery Memories. And sure enough, there were others that were interested in tasting those tastes again and miss the bakery. My old friend Kristen Donnan, who knew my dad and knew the bakery and had spent her life being an editor, agreed to edit my book, and the two of us produced A Baker's Daughter. I hope you enjoy tasting these tastes as much as I do, and my family. They bring back so many memories of celebrations and anniversaries and parties. Please share pictures of your creation. Thank you so much. So I have about a quarter of a cup to half a cup of the some rye starter that I already had, some rye sour that I already had. So I'm going to feed it. And I don't intend on making a marble rye. I'm just going to make single loaves. So I'll just put in half a cup pumpernickel flour and a quarter cup of water. And just mix it up. Sort of has the consistency of cookie dough, but a little bit looser than cookie dough. Just make sure you get all the dry flour mixed in. Try to get it down the sides. That's good. It's a pretty good consistency. A lot like cookie dough. If you find it's too dry, you can add more water next time. Sort of depends on the humidity level in your home, and I'm in Florida, so it's very humid. Then just take some pumpernickel flour, and I kind of lean it to the side and just lightly sprinkle a coating over the top of this fruity smelling sour. It has a little tang to it, which is normal, but it should also have a fruitiness to it. And that's it. So what I use is a jar like this without the seal. I don't put the seal here, just leave that off. And that way it gets plenty of air, but not too much air. Too much air, it dries out, and I think picks up things in the room, and I'd rather have it be like this. And I put it in my pantry where it's dark and cool.
All right, here we are the next day, and we've got some good bubbling going there, and it smells very fruity and very alcohol-y. So I just take off that top, the dry protective top that we created with all that extra flour. Don't worry about taking too much. I want to go ahead and get all that dry stuff out. And you're going to be putting some more flour back in. See how bubbly it is? It's nice. It smells so good. And then mix it up. And I add 1/4 cup of water, 1/2 cup of flour, that's good. And make sure I get it mixed up really well. Yeah, I like it. It's a little wetter than yesterday. Let's see how we like that. Okay. So we've knocked it down and put our flour in it. So then we'll put our protective and there you have it. And I'll see you tomorrow. I think it's going to be about day 6 tomorrow, but it's hard to keep track. All right, it's been a couple days, and I should have done it yesterday, but didn't. But look, it's starting to bubble. It's starting to look really lively. Look at that. Oh, yes. Smells fantastic. It's filling the whole kitchen up with this aroma. Fruity, fermenty aroma. So I'm going to take this layer of dry flour that's been protecting my beautiful rye sour. I'm just going to grab that whole lot if I can. Boom. Out it comes. At some point after this gets really lively, you can use these cast-off portions of your sour to actually make a loaf of bread. But it's not quite there yet. But it's smelling and looking great. Not everybody likes this smell, but I have come to really love it. All right, so I'm going to just mix that up. I always scrape down the sides too. Just get all that good stuff back in there. There's a little chunk of the dried flour, the protective flour. Get rid of that. Okay, beautiful. Look how yummy that looks. That's so delicious. And then we will take 1/2 cup of my pumpernickel and a little bit more than 1/4 cup of water. I've been finding it was a little drier than I liked. You'll find what you like. And just mix this all back up again. Scraping down the sides. Now if the sides get funky looking, like there's something furry or dark, you can scrape it out. But you could also just scrape it in. But I like to scrape it out if it gets furry. But I try not to let it sit that long. You really don't want it to get furry. You want to get it lively and use it, and then you feed it one last time and stick it in the fridge. And then when you want to use it, you just bring it to room temperature, feed it, get it lively again, and then you're ready to go again. So that's why some people call this a mother, because it's sort of your base that you can then work with into the future. So now I'll take some pumpernickel and give it that nice protective layer. Yep, that looks good. It's all kind of covered up. A couple of corners. And now I'm gonna close it up. Of course, I don't put the seal here so that it has some air to breathe. There's some moisture there. I'm going to wipe up some good seal against the glass. And scrape everything down the sides. Beautiful rye sour. Getting there. So I've knocked it down so you don't see the bubbles. But when I show it to you next, and then we'll do our little protective pumpernickel flour layer. I like to describe the fragrance. It's just so delicious. Fruity. That's perfect. Not too thick. Just a nice coating. Kind of. It helps you to know that it's bubbling because it smells delicious. It comes up rotten and breaks open. Although sometimes if I let it sit for a few days, it starts to get a little smelly, but it's not a problem. That's it. You just feed it. So again, I don't put the seal in this jar. You don't want to forget it. Too tight for more than 2 days. I do close it, but I don't put the seal in. But then you just take a little bit of the bottom and keep going. So it's pretty forgiving. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. So I'm going to do what I do every time and take off this top. Here we are at about day 8. Go a little bit more. It's getting there. It smells delicious. Yeah, but it's not there yet. It's not there quite yet. So we're about halfway there. I think it takes about 12 days for this to really get right. Now a little bit of another aroma. So a little bit tangy, and that's when you know you're getting close. One batch of 2 loaves of rye bread, 2 1-pound loaves. So I will. Now I do a lot of bread making in my bread machine, and that calls for 1.5 pound loaf. So I do have to do some math. The recipe in the book explains it all very clearly. I want to thank King Arthur Flour for allowing me to use that recipe. It's a great recipe. This is the one we're doing right now. It's King Arthur's recipe for rye bread starter, they call it, I think. But the bakery, as you know, called it a sour. So I've been doing a 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup. 1/2 cup of the dry with half of that of wet. So the ratio is just 1 to 2. About, scrape down the especially sides, about this time, get all that, maybe from the get-go, stinky goodness in here. It's starting to smell great. Sort of like Groundhog Day. Just do the same thing every day. Or if you're like me, I do try to get all those every 2 days because chunks out of there, but it doesn't matter. They'll just incorporate right back in. That's a great consistency of pumpernickel flour. I never use metal on the starter. I always use wood, and then the crocus I always use glass, but it can also be ceramic, but you never want to use plastic or metal. Ready for another day. Look at that. Yum. It's very happy. Rye sour. And you see how the top cracks? Gosh, this smells just like heaven. Tangy. It's getting tangy. And that's what you want, that lovely rye. It just smells bready, yeasty. And then I put in 1/4 of a cup of water, 1/2 a cup of pumpernickel flour. So the payoff here is a nice tangy, fruity aroma with a slight alcohol-y smell sometimes, but right now it's just absolutely fruity and yeasty, bready smelling. And it's not quite there yet, but it's just gorgeous. You know what I have found? I'm going to alter this a little bit and smooth it out. Oops, I got a little bit of that old starter. I'm going to smooth it out because I find that I get fewer of those top flour chunks if I just kind of spread it out to the sides. Yeah. See how we like that tomorrow or the next day when I end up another day. I think I'm about day 8 or 9. It usually takes about 12 to really get it where you want it to be. But sometimes people feed it twice a day, and I don't do that, so. I'm not sure if that would make it faster. Perhaps it would. All right, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Okay, I think it's about day 10. I never seem to be able to write it down and keep track. But I have that nice little crust on the top. And I just pull all that away. You have less crust if you do it every day like you're supposed to, like the recipe in the book says. But my life doesn't seem to be able to be good at doing something every day. I don't know about you. Can you see that? So I just get those little chunks out of dry flour. This smells so good. This smells like rye bread already. That is the fruitiest, yummiest. There's no alcohol-y smell to it at all, or any funky smell. It just smells fruity and yeasty, maybe. You know, might have to be in the description. But yeah, this is gonna be great. So I think this is really delicious. This is just, I think I'll feed it one more time and then I'm gonna make some rye bread out of it. So I'm going to do a rye bread in the bread oven because it's just so easy. It enables me to easily have more bread in my life. Happy. Oh my goodness. I just wish I could send the smell over the wires. Yeah, that's delish. So, like I sort of learned during this batch, I like to smooth this top out. Kind of take it to the edges. Smooth it out a little bit so that my protective layer has a smooth surface. Oh, but wait a second, I need to add flour first. Hang on a second. A little too soon there. You know what, I like to put the water in first. Then the pumpernickel flour. So I will do this one more time. That'll be 12 days if I go 2 days. Maybe I'll remember to do it tomorrow. I'll feed it one more time, and then I think it's gonna be ready. It just gets better. So if I use some, I'll use I think the recipe is 1 2/3 cups. So you use a good portion of it, most of it, but you don't want to use all of it, of course. You never want to get rid of your starter, your mother, your sour, whatever you call it. It just smells so good. This is also what you make a pumpernickel loaf out of as well. You just add things to it to make it pumpernickel. Mostly just in color. I'm giving my rice sour a little layer of pumpernickel flour. It doesn't have to be much, but it helps you to see it blossoming and crackling, and then you know that you're alive and well, and it's really becoming lively. It smells great. So next time we'll feed it one more time, and then I'll give it a day, and then it'll be ready to make a loaf of bread from. Yay! Okay, I think we're going to be done today. This smells fantastic. Take this top off. That's the protective flour layer. Nice. Oh boy, this smells just fantastic. I'm going to get the stuff on the sides that are all discolored. But it's okay, it's not bad. You might think it's bad for you, but it's just not. All right, so look how bubbly and delicious that is. It's just really ready. And I have plenty here for a recipe. Look at that. Fantastic. So that is ready to bake with. And I'm gonna go ahead and, it's fruity and so sweet, yummy smelling. Okay, so now that's ready to make a loaf. So what I'm gonna do is take out most of this sour, but I will leave a little tiny bit, maybe 1/4 cup. I don't think you want less than 1/4 cup. And I will feed it and start the whole process again every day, and I'll just keep it going, because now I don't have to wait 12 days, because now I have an active mother. So if I just feed it with enough flour for another recipe, it'll be ready to go in a few days for another loaf. All right, rice sour. So to demonstrate a bit, I'm going to make a bread machine loaf of rye bread. So I've already taken my measure of my rye sour for a 1.5 pound loaf into my bread machine. The reason why I went 1.5, because usually a 1 pound loaf of bread is all that machine will do, but rye bread doesn't rise and expand as much as regular yeast bread does. So it's a tighter loaf, and I find that a 1 pound loaf is kind of small. It's wonderful, but I'm trying a 1.5 pound loaf today. The math was a little tricky, especially for the rye sour, but I think that it's going to be pretty forgiving. So what I'm going to do with this is add back in
quarter of a cup of water and half a cup of pumpernickel rye flour, and continue my starter because I want to make some more rye bread. Yeah, I like that one. Boy, is this a beautiful smelling sour. It's just fantastic. There we go with that. Just put a little bit on top. And that is ready to go for the next loaf. And then when I'm done with rye bread, if I'm not going to be making a loaf anytime soon, I'll do what I just did and feed it and then put it in the fridge. And then when I want it again, pull it out, get it to room temperature, and then begin to feed it for a feeding or two until it's nice and lively again. So once you have this mother, you can just continue on. So I'm going to now bake some rye bread. All right, here we are with my bread machine. It usually makes a 1 pound loaf, but I'm going to try a 1.5 pound loaf in terms of the ingredient amounts because the rye loaves have been coming out small, which is fine, they're beautiful, but I just want a little bit bigger loaf, so I'm going to try it out and see if I wreak havoc or if I make a nice loaf. So the first thing I do is run that yeast through my hands. I just like to warm it up. Remember my dad and my big bubby, Pop. Okay, so then in goes the yeast. And the salt, all the ingredients just go right on into the bread machine, which makes it so easy. And here's bread flour. Here's my first clear rye flour. Any kind of rye flour can do. You can do a flour blend, a rye blend. You could use first clear. And that was first clear. I don't use caraway seeds because I don't care for them, but at this point you would put the caraway seeds in. And here's that beautiful rye starter that I made. Yum. And you made it too if you followed along. The regular recipe is for 2 1 pound loaves. So that's what we're working with. So that's the rye sour, got the salt, the 2 flours. Just need water at the right temperature, and I've got that. So literally just pour it in. It looks pretty full. If that were a white bread recipe, that would be too full. That's gonna come out over the sides. But for this rye bread recipe, I think I'm gonna be okay. We'll find out. I close it up, and I'm not plugged in, but I push the buttons for a white bread loaf, large, dark crust, and then go. And I will bring you back when it's ready. Thanks for watching.